today in our club, My Life, My Business, wish I was here. We decided that we're going to continue with this personal leadership brand and how it needs to add value to others, because we came at it from not two different vantage points. We started talking about what is a personal brand, how do you develop a personal brand. Alistaire last week took us through developing a personal leadership brand. And so, we can have a theoretical conversation. So having a more practical conversation in terms of, first and foremost, the principle that, we don't become leaders because we are employed or elected into a leadership position. We are all leaders in some shape or form. And whether we do that by default or by design, that is the premise. So it's not, I don't identify with the topic because I don't hold a management position. This is not what we're talking about, literally. Alistaire put it so beautifully in terms of, your leadership brand, your personal leadership brand adds value to others. And today, one component of that is how you inspire and motivate others to reach for some sort of goal or to take action or, in whatever way, how you help others achieve their goals, but is serving others in some way. And I thought as a conversation, this is not going to be us talking literally. So Alistair and I are going to have a conversation. If nobody else has any questions, we will do the Q&A unless you interrupt us. But we just want to have a conversation this afternoon around exactly the practical aspects of adding value as a leader. So and exactly what, and that experience from the recipients will therefore define your personal leadership brand, because it's what others say about you, as Alistaire pointed out, is what matters. So I thought about an example, and I thought about all kinds of great leaders, iconic leaders, and then I thought about, right on my own doorstep, I want to talk about really my senior pastor at my church. He's got very distinctive brands between his personal how he is as his personal brand, and then also his leadership brand. I just wanted to link that from a practical point of view, just from purely my own opinion. As I can describe him, my pastor is extremely creative, innovative. He is a man that is a trendsetter in whatever he does. He's got this unique view of life and how to do things. In his background is a designer of shoes, amongst many things, successful businessman from that perspective. And I got to know him, and the privilege of knowing him is that he comes from Cape Town, took over a church here 30 years ago, very small church, and grew it into a church of great significance. So as a man, pays attention to detail. And one of the values that permeates his personal brand is excellence. And that value has translated into his personal leadership brand, because the church values excellence in everything that we do. So the key is, how is that added value? And I was thinking about that. Is number one, I joined this church 17 years ago, and that was about the time I started my full-time practice. The tips that I got for the business came from many perspectives, and I learned how to really apply the thinking around generating big, hairy, audacious goals. Set them, believe in them, have the confidence to pursue them. And I look at that transfer, and that's how he as a leader impacted me. So I see him as a visionary leader. I see him as extremely strategic, because he transferred in my case, business strategies to me, never mind an organizational strategy, church strategies. People come to our church to come and learn because there's just something in the value of excellence that he has brought to the church. Then about because in any church to make it work you need volunteers. How he inspired people from all walks of life. And but then again, you know what stand out for me is to get the youth to be so committed um, in their volunteerism, if you like, and to serve not just faithfully but with such high commitment and absolute passion, immensely so. So they find a purpose. He creates an environment, a conducive environment for people in general, but specifically the youth to find purpose, to to get direction. And the last thing I wanted to share is, succession planning. Not only does he inspire youth also to volunteer, but he gives them opportunity in leadership positions. If you look at our pastoral level, how many young people have come from just serving, giving them opportunities, giving them the platform from time to time. Once they've showed their level of integrity, excellence, and all of that, the heart to serve, but also the humility to take instruction, to learn, all those good things. And so transferring that vision into the workforce, the staff, the team around him is leaving something behind. So the church, when he goes on holiday or goes abroad, especially pre-COVID, goes abroad to preach and is away for probably weeks on end, the church doesn't come to an end. It runs with the same levels of organization and excellence, and that imprint, I believe, has come through his leadership brand. So anyway, I just thought I'll bring that in, leave that as a taster. Alistair, I don't know if you resonate with anything that I've said thus far.
Yes, absolutely. Everything that you said. The key, as you said, and even as I said last week, is that it is an intentional. It's very rare that somebody makes that level of impact without an intentionality behind it. There are a few people in the world that can make massive impact without putting any effort to it, any thought to it. They just naturally that way inclined. And there's a huge part. In fact, our personal, even our leadership brand must come out of a natural me, a natural us. So we mustn't end up being like someone else, as we said a few weeks ago. If I'm inspired by the way you speak, Jacques, I love the way you speak. I love the impact. What that mustn't do in me is now wanting to speak like you. But what it must inspire in me is to find my own voice, my own tone, my own pace, and bring that out in me. So the point I'm making is the high levels of impact comes from a huge intention to your personal and leadership brand. And you ask yourself, who am I? What is the impact that I want to make? And how do I take this me, this strength, this naturalness that I have, and create value to others with that thing? So remember, it's a two-sided story. I have a strength, and that strength adds value to someone else. Half of that is not a leadership brand. Half of that possibly sits in us thinking we're making a difference and impact. And that's why a lot of leaders are making the so leaders who make a devastating impact, there's only a handful of them who start off saying, I'm going to live a life and I'm going to lead and cause devastating result in people. Most leaders get up in the morning and say, I want to make a difference. But because they're not often because they're not intentional about a positive difference and what that difference is and who they are, they end up making a different difference, which is sometimes a good different difference, but also in most cases a bad one. So my actual point is there needs to be an intentionality, like you speak about your pastor, like Woolies, that feeling you get when you carry their bag and you shop and you wear their clothes and you walk through the mall with their bag, that feeling you have is very intentional and planned session after session in their boardrooms. That's the point.
All right, so I just want to invite any one of you, Porsche, Naz, or Renee, if you would like to add to our conversation. So I'm just going to invite you. You can to accept the invitation or not, or you can just send us a text. But I mean, Alistair is talking about making a difference or a difference in evil. But the point would be is that brand has impact, whether it has impact for constructive good or constructive purposes or destructive purposes. It impacts people in some way. And I mean, we've got all kinds of examples of how this plays out, not just in society, in the business world, in politics, and so forth. Um, so, Alistair, if I can then ask, are you saying that developing a personal leadership brand, the intentionality must focus specifically on doing it for constructive good?
I think if you look at different leaders, we we have a war between Russia and Ukraine. Now, I don't want to get into politics. So there's an intentional. So people say all kinds of things from Putin. I get the feeling he doesn't care. In fact, he believes all of it. Most of it is not true. And if he knows it's true, I get the feeling he does not care. Why I say that is because he continues to do what he's doing. And the truth is, most probably in his mind, he is doing the right thing for some reason. So there's an intentionality behind it with a negative impact, right? So even negatively, there's a brand that is agreed in himself. This is who I am. This is what I bring to the world, and this is how I'm going to impact the world.
Mm,
Or even I would even say this is the value I'm going to add to the world. So even
mm,
in his mind, he's thinking he's doing a whole lot of right things for a whole lot of people, but probably for his own nation,
mm,
right? But he's intentional about it.
mm.
That's the point I'm making.
Okay. Shanaz, comments, questions? I hope the unmute button works. Oh, Paul says, "Hi everyone. I can hear you. I've gotten that impact is driven by intentionality. Intention leads the direction of thought and action. One thing the club has reminded me of is to be clearer even in setting weekly intentions." It's a comment from Paul.
Back and forth.
Shanaz is typing. Oh, it's not working. That's interesting. Let me try something else, Shanaz.
Type is not working.
Well, let's see if I can just see if by upping your status even further, whether you can unmute your mic.
Maybe she can make a comment in the box, in the chat,
Mm, mm,
or question, and
mm.
we'll pick it up that way. We still have good time.
Okay, Paul is saying sometimes we don't know how much of an impact we're going to make or making, but I think when it's clear as day, the impact is beyond what we can imagine.
And that is so true. So Paul's point is sometimes we don't know
Would
that.
that then lend itself, coming back to the intentionality equation in this, is would that also not, would that mean if we don't know, is that unintentional? Is that the default that
Uh, so,
happens?
so I have a question.
Hmm.
If 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 what Paul says the impact, let's say it's unintentional, the impact we make is beyond what we can imagine.
Hmm.
Imagine if there's intentionality with that same strength, because you can think about it and you're calculated about it, not mechanical about it.
Hmm.
So imagine you put, for the lack of a different thought or a strategy behind that impact. Imagine how exponentially bigger that impact can be.
Hmm. Hmm. Good
Because
point.
the truth is that as much as we're making a difference through our strengths, we also fall short of making a bigger difference because we're not strategizing that strength well enough.
Hmm.
As we say, if it's your thing, do yourself a favor and enhance your think by thinking about it. Then imagine the impact.
So could be real exponential. Now, Shanaz is saying intentionality is important, but it's like, however, not her words, we make an impact all the time when we are intentional or not.
Yeah,
And just to put a finer point on that, you know, and it's interesting, just in my own example, using my pastor's reference, is he is so intentional in leaving his DNA behind, but not his DNA for his own purposes, for his own benefit. It's for the greater good. It's
yeah,
to leave legacy behind. And the default setting that operates, whether we intend, so that to me is the two categories: the default behavior that either leads to benefits to others, or harm to others. And I mean, we operate in a field where it is about doing no harm. But if it's default, by doing things in default, by default you make impact, um, and to then understand that what we are talking about, you talking, in terms of harnessing your gifting, your strengths for the good of those around you. That's the value. And you know you make me think a little bit about what you're saying about Putin. In his mind he's intentional, and uh, um, he's doing this in terms
for the
of
greater good.
what's for, especially for Russia. Yes.
Yeah,
um, so we can debate all of that, but he's therefore intentional. And so many people who are intentional in what they're doing, um, have impact. So to come back to Shanaz's point, um, and pause, is becoming aware that we make impact. And when that awareness grows, it allows you to make a decision to kind of make the impact that is for the constructive good, for the benefit of others. So,
yep,
yes, Shanaz, absolutely. The one thing to kind of shrink a blind spot is that you got to be courageous and get people to give you feedback, and you got to be open to receiving feedback from others and not defensive. I mean, Alistair made some, as 2 weeks ago when we started talking about this topic, um, when somebody gave you feedback and you shared it on this forum. Many people have listened to you sharing about that, but that requires a vulnerability. And I'm going to say this, is that we can talk about feedback is the breakfast of champions, but I
mm,
think in there lies the encouragement to seek feedback intentionally and actively. Once again, we're talking about being intentional. It's the same thing as saying, Hey, Alistair, what do you think, and really be open to receive, so that you can your brand, your leadership brand, so much depends on the feedback you're getting from others.
You asking or you saying?
Yeah, no, I just said, and Alistair, over to you.
Yes. So the other thing, I think we all said it. It's that is helpful. So if you're a leader or you're just a person, you're part of a community of any kind, um, is to ask. It's not to say, what is it that I want to give? And that part about adding value to others is to also ask people, to ask to engage your team and to say, what is it that adds value to you that really makes a difference? Right? And so what companies do is they throw money, if they have money, they throw money to programs. They give increases, they give bonuses, they buy things, right? They put better lighting, they buy chairs so people can sit better. Um, and we add all of this, and none of it has real meaning to people, add real value to someone else. Instead of asking the team or the staff, what is it that really adds value to you? I mean, I was working up in the Swartland area with a big company, and they had a problem with the community. In fact, one Thursday night when they wanted to go home, it was a massive. They couldn't get out the gate because the community blocked them with fires at the gate. Basically, the community said, we don't like you. We don't like you to be in our community, and you're not adding value to us. And when we engage with the top leadership, the comment I will never forget, the one leader said, but 3 years ago, because they make doors and windows and stuff, they said 3 years ago, we made wooden toys for the children in the community. So, first of all, that didn't make a difference. It's not what the community. And secondly, that was 3 years ago. I mean, it's like the leader who said, I don't have to be nice now. I was nice to you 5 years ago. And so ask the question, what is it that adds value to you as my team, as my business, to to create a real understanding of adding value. Right. I see we're at 1800 hours.
Yes. Time to say goodbye. But maybe just leave this with everyone. You know what we all always we sometimes do with clients is when they really battle to define whether they want to define their purpose or define their brand is to ask the question, well, what would you like them to say at your memorial?
Hmm.
To get an idea of what it is you're aiming at, because that's also something you pointed out. Have an idea so that you are intentional, so that when people then talk about you, there will be that confirmation, that congruency. You wanted to project yourself in a certain way, you were received in a certain way, and those two things are the same. If you wanted a definition of success, I would say that would be one of them.
Well, Jacques,
So,
it's time to say goodbye to you on that high note.
sure. Thank you for joining us and others, and we will see you next week.